Hello and welcome everyone to Toppers Talks. Today we have with us Dr. Akanksha Nag from the 2015 batch of Lokmanya Tilak Municipal Medical College, Mumbai. She has secured an All India rank of 9 in the INI CET 2021 July session. Congratulations, Dr. Akanksha, for this fabulous achievement.
Thank you.
All right, so let's start with the questions that we have for the day. So the first question is, when according to you is the ideal time to begin preparing?
See, the ideal time to begin preparation should be during your internship. But that being said, you should ensure that whatever subjects you're reading in your respective year, you have a thorough knowledge about that subject. So your basics with respect to that subject should be strong. For example, when I was in my first year and second year MBBS, I've read those subjects very well in that year itself. And same goes for the final year. So when I started with my internship, when I started with my preparation, my majority of concepts were clear. So I had to just brush through those concepts and build up on facts. So the ideal time of preparation should be during internship. And if you have not read well during 4.5 years of MBBS, it's still fine. You can start an internship. It's just you will need more number of revisions as compared to someone who has already started early.
All right. Okay, so moving on ahead, what are the resources that you would recommend for this? The books, classes, everything.
Yes, so I would say that when I was in my pre-final year, that is when Marrow had come up. So since 2018, I've been using Marrow. Actually, I am a DAMS student. I had paid fees to DAMS for 3 years when I was during my end of second year, but I really didn't go to DAMS that much. I was not somebody who found comfortable sitting for 12 hours and making notes, and I used to forget most of the things which I was writing in the notes as well. So that is when I purchased Marrow. So Marrow has been my primary source of preparation. The reading, my notes, the concise notes from which I have read during my internship has been the printed notes of Marrow. Apart from that, during the last 1 month of before my exam, I had purchased INI CET of DAMS. Like, it was not included in my course. I had to purchase it on top of my existing courses. So I had purchased INI CET of DAMS. So these are the only two resources which I have used for preparation.
So the Q banks that the Marrow provide, were they sufficient for the preparations?
Yes, I think Marrow has huge information, and the information which is given in Marrow is very much sufficient. The only thing which you have to do is ensure that you are thorough with what is given in the notes. Even one-liners are covered in notes, as well as conceptual questions are covered in notes. So you just have to read your notes thoroughly in and out. You should know about what is given, everything. See, I am with respect to any entrance exam, you should know, you should solve majority of the questions which are commonly asked. You should not run behind alien topics, and the commonly asked questions are very well covered in Marrow. Apart from Marrow, during my pre-final year, I had joined Quest for medicine. So that is before I had purchased Marrow, and that was very helpful. It cleared a lot of my concepts in medicine, and after that, when I started watching Rakesh Nair sir's videos from medicine, it became very easy. And in my final year, I had joined Dr. Amrit Nasta sir's surgery classes. Sir takes classes for both surgery practicals and theory, but I had joined only his practical classes.
Okay. And what about the grand tests? How did you go about doing them?
Yes, so see, I'll just tell you the basic layout for how should one go about preparation. So when you start your internship, you follow the Marrow planner. As per the Marrow planner, you have fixed number of days allotted for each subject. For example, anatomy you have to finish in 10 days, and biochemistry, physio 10 days, pathology will be say 15 days, in that way. So if you follow that planner, you will be able to complete your first reading of all the 19 subjects in 6 months. And that was what my target was. I started my preparation in the month of March. So my aim was to complete my first reading by August end. And it's not possible that you are going to complete it in 6 months. So I did keep around 15 to 20 days as buffer. So that is what I had kept. And beyond that, I knew that if I'm going to extend beyond that, I will leave as it is and I'll start my revision. So your first reading should comprise of 6 months, and you can keep 15 to 20 days as buffer, following which you have to start with your revisions. So when I started my first revision, before every revision, I used to give a subject-wise test so as to assess that how much do I remember. For example, I started my preparation with anatomy. So that I read it in March. Then my first revision started in September. So obviously I would have forgotten majority of the things in anatomy which I read in the month of March. So I used to give a subject wise test before I started my first revision, and that would help me know that okay, for example, I couldn't remember the brachial plexus roots and branches of internal iliac artery, branches of vertebral artery. Then there are questions like trochanteric anastomosis, and all those are very volatile things. So I got to know that when I'm revising, these are my areas of focus. So 6 months should be your first reading, and you have to, on top of that, you have to add your revisions. Now, how many number of revisions, it completely depends on your speed and the time at which exam is going to be held. So previously my NEET was scheduled to be held in January. So I had planned of 3 revisions, but then it got postponed. So with every subsequent postponement, I just kept on revising things. So I was able to revise my entire notes for 6 times, and total 7, like 6 are my revisions and the first one is my primary reading. So when you're revising for the first time, I used to use a highlighter to underline all the facts which I didn't remember. For example, if I'm reading neuroanatomy, there are boundaries of lateral ventricle, and I couldn't remember it even when I was revising. So I knew that this is something I need to revise more number of times. It's completely fact based. And similarly, question like the blood supply of brain, these are, so I used to underline them with a highlighter or any colored pen. Then when I started my second reading, I used to read only the highlighted things and not anything else. Then in my second reading, I used a different color pen, and I highlighted, I even narrowed down the information. So by the time I had finished my 3 revisions, I knew that what I am supposed to read, and if I'm able to read only these things, I'll be able to get a general gist of the entire subject. Just, in 1 or 2 days, I'll be able to finish anatomy. So that is how you narrow down the information. So this is with respect to your notes. Like, this is how you are going to use your notes throughout your preparation. I have not used a single MCQ book. My only source of information has been my Marrow printed notes. Apart from that, question bank. So when I was reading a subject for the first time, like I said, I started with anatomy. So for anatomy, I had allotted 10 days, which also I had subdivided, like today I'll do upper limb and thorax, then tomorrow I'll do embryology and histology. So I used to ensure I finish the Q bank simultaneously, because question bank should be taken as a learning tool, and you should not take it really like an assessment tool. So if 97% of the information, it is given in the notes, but some 3% would be something which you're encountering new in the question bank. So you add it in your active workspaces, which was given in my printed notes. So question bank, I used to solve it during my postings, because when I used to come home, that was the time where I used to focus more on learning. So watching videos and revising the notes. But question bank is something which I used to do it during my internship duties. So that is how I was able to finish my first reading of the notes as well as complete the question bank in 10 days.
Yeah, that's really amazing, and I think a lot of us have learned how to narrow down the notes and narrow down the information that we have with us, and
Yes.
organize it in a better way so that it's quicker to read. And in the start of the answer, you said something about Marrow Planner. Can you explain what is Marrow Planner and how can someone get that Marrow Planner? What is it? Because I have
That
no
Marrow
idea.
Planner is that Marrow Planner is available on the Marrow Links group on Facebook. You just have to, in the search bar, just type Marrow Planner. It's
All right.
also available on Abbas Ali sir's Telegram group. You just have to type it in the search bar, and it will give you that planner. That planner tells you that percentage of questions which are asked from each topic and how many number of days it should be finished in. So that is what
Okay.
a Marrow Planner is.
Okay. Thank you. And since the INICET result have come recently, a lot of toppers have given interviews. And the question that majority of the people have is, do we require a lot of classes? Do we need to apply to 4 or 5 different classes? And do we need to give
No.
different stuff like that? Because that is a question that we have been repeatedly receiving on our Instagram DMs and messages. So could you just clarify on that?
Yes, so I think you just need only one single source and you have to stick to it. The reason why I had purchased, so Marrow was my only source. The reason I had purchased INICET TNT of DAMS is because I thought that I need to practice more new pattern questions because the pattern has changed since last year November exam. So they had included more match the columns and multiple options correct, so you need to practice that kind of questions. And I thought I needed more practice. That is why I purchased INICET of DAMS. But you have to rely on only one particular source, which will be your primary source of reading. Having said that, you should give tests of multiple platforms because for example, if I'm reading brachial plexus, then Marrow will have its own language of asking a question on brachial plexus, then DAMS will ask a similar question on that topic, but their language will be different. And same way for Bhatia and PrepLadder also. So you have a primary source of reading your information, but I would suggest to give tests of various platforms. So that because every platform has their test which is biased towards their notes. So it's not that you're just scoring good in Marrow Grand Test and you're not scoring that well in DAMS test series. So you should give the tests of all these platforms, and that will give you a much more comprehensive evaluation of where you stand with respect to your preparation.
Correct. So how many grand tests did you give before the INICET exam?
So begin from starting that during my first reading, during the first 6 months, when you're doing your first reading, you should give one grand test per month and you should review it. Reviewing a grand test will take your 2 to 3 days, but that is something which you have to keep it separately. Like I knew that today I'm giving, like I used to give grand test on weekends, and then my entire Sunday used to go in reviewing the grand test. Sometimes it used to extend even till Monday. But I would ensure that I've reviewed all my grand test questions because each and every question in grand test is important. They don't ask irrelevant questions. They will ask questions from topics which have been asked in exam. So for the first 6 months, I used to give one grand test per month. After that, during my revisions, I used to give two grand tests per month. And before exams, Marrow had two grand tests, which is their INICET national mock. So those are the only two grand tests which I've given. So I have given grand tests in accordance with the way Marrow has spaced out the grand tests, and Marrow follows the same technique of spacing out grand tests. So I have followed that. You can give a grand test when it is live, so you will get a live rank, which is much better. But in case if you're not able to give a grand test live, so you can give it later, they'll give you a predicted rank, which is also fairly accurate.
Okay. So thank you so much for answering that. And while preparing for the
Yes.
exams and giving this mock test, there would have certainly been some lows in that. So how did you manage with the lows while preparing for the exam?
So I used to make a lot of silly mistakes, and that used to really bother me. But it shouldn't bother you for more than 5 to 10 minutes. Like you can take 5 to 10 minutes to sulk about it, but then you have to write it down in your 20th notebook. For example, I have made a simple question of Glasgow comma scale incorrect so many times in my grand test, and I've made simple mathematical questions wrong for formula based questions. So that is something which I realized is my weak point, and I have practiced that before my exams, and that is how you correct it. You go behind your wrong questions aggressively and you read that from your notes.
Okay, okay, fantastic. So what was your strategy 1 month before the exam? And I think this would apply for those students preparing for NEET PG right now as well, as the NEET PG 2021
Yes.
is just a month away, around 30-40 days away.
So my last month strategy, it was advised to me by my senior that I need to brush through all the 19 subjects once. So like I said, I had funneled down all the information. So I knew that what I'm supposed to revise. So because of that funneled information, I could finish entire reading of anatomy, in one day, and only high yield points. For example, triangles of neck is something which I had marked and kept. I had marked and kept cadaveric dissection videos, which I knew because AIMS has asks a lot of cadaveric questions, and it came in our paper as well. So these are the things which I had kept. So all the 19 subjects, brushed through all the 19 subjects, and all the high yield facts which I had, stuck on my wall, like the IPCs. There are various tables in poisons. Then cancer stagings are there, milestones are there, scoring systems are there in gynae, and surgery especially has a lot of scoring systems, biochemistry cycles. So these are the things which I had kept in the last 1 month.
Okay. And 1 week before the exam, did you have a special strategy of how to revise the entire portion, or what was the strategy in the last 1 week?
There was no 1 week strategy. This last 1 month strategy only, I had kept it in such a way that my weak topic comes towards the exam. Like when I said that I would brush through all the 19 subjects, I started with my strong subjects first. So my strong subjects were OBGY, gynec, medicine, surgery. The final year subjects were my strong subjects, and my weak subjects were community medicine, microbiology, and pharmacology, because they revolved around a lot of facts. And so that is why I thought that I would do it in the last week of exam, because if I do it 4 weeks before the exam, I will forget once again. So that is what, like, that was my strategy 1 week before the exam, that out of those 19 subjects, the my weak subjects I kept it in the last 1 week.
All right. And then at the day of the exam, what was your mindset? How did you mentally prepare yourself for the exam?
I was very terrified, and I was very anxious. A night before the exam, I called my friends and I spoke to them. And on the morning of exam, see, we were always in a hurry because I had to reach the center. So really, I didn't get much time to think. The main thing happened after I gave the exam. When I came home and I realized that I'm making many silly mistakes. I discussed it with Amartya as well. So I realized I made a lot of silly mistakes. So I thought that I'm out of the competition. But my mother told to let's wait for the results. And fortunately, AIMS people give results in 3 days only. So I would knew that if I'm getting a seat or not. And in case I'm not getting seat, I would have just wasted 3 days and then back to studying for NEET. So this is what my mindset was after the exam. But then luckily results came very well. So
Correct. And while giving the exam, if you were confused in a question, whether this answer is correct or not, did you attempt it or did you leave it? Did you just doesn't try to attempt
So
it?
initially, when I started my paper, my first set of questions were very difficult. They were all PSM biostatistics questions and calculation based questions, which I knew that is going to take a lot of time. So I immediately went to the last 20 questions. I started my paper from behind. And this is something which I have practiced through my grand tests. Like whenever I get a rough patch of questions, I will immediately change and go to a different set of questions. For example, in my paper, the first 10 questions were tough. So I directly jumped to question number 180 and I solved the last 20 questions first, and they were very easy. So this is something which you can do, or you can use the feature of mark for review. I was not comfortable with mark for review, and because sometimes due to technical glitch, if you are marking for review and you go back and you attempt the question, sometimes it might not used to get saved. So that is something which I didn't want to happen. So that is why I used to just skip those questions and jump to a different set of questions. Like I directly went to last 20 questions in my test and I started solving. So that was what my strategy. So you have to figure it out this by giving lot of grand tests. You will understand that what your way through it. And I had attempted 188 questions. I'd left 12 questions, which is a huge number of questions. Usually toppers attempt around 195 to 198. But it depends. Again, this is something which I have established through my grand tests. Like I have given grand tests where I've been aggressive and marked around 198 to 199 questions. So I was not getting more number of questions right. In fact, the extra questions which I was solving was making my marks go into more negative. So therefore, I thought that if I don't know anything, absolute information, I don't have any idea, I'll skip that question. and that is what I did in the exam.
All right. So I think that's a great piece of advice there, to give multiple grand tests and fine tune your strategy according to the
Yes.
results and review it and then go for the final exam. And I think that's
Yes.
wonderful advice to all the NEET PG aspirants over there right now. And so, as you know, we had asked some questions to our Instagram audience, and
Yes.
they had sent their questions. So the question that they said was how to balance your internship and NEET PG preparation.
See, internship is going to be heavy in most of the colleges. Internship is heavy. Fortunately, I was in science, so our internship was not that heavy. But irrespective, you have to have a habit of studying daily. Even if you're having like an emerge duty, just ensure you solve 2 to 3 QBAG modules, or whenever you're taking a patient for some CT, MRI, or some scan, then you're waiting over there. You're doing nothing. You can solve your bookmarked MCQs, or you can brush through any pearl. You have to read daily. That is the thing. That is going to help you in the long run. Even if you're having a very tiring day, if you read it, just take out time to read for 1 hour. And the days when you don't have to go for your shifts, you're having an holiday, that is when you have to compensate for your lost hours and study for more number of hours. For example, on Sunday, whenever I used to have an off, I used to be able to manage to study for 8 to 10 hours. But the days I used to have my duty, I used to study for 5 to 6 hours. The main thing is that you finish your target. If I have to complete it, a complete anatomy in 10 days, so I'll apply my permutation combination such that I'll finish it in 10 days. If today I'm seeing only 5 videos of embryology, then tomorrow I'll ensure I see 15 so that I'm able to reach my target. And whatever your targets are for the next day, you should write it a day before itself, or else the half of the day goes in thinking only that what you're going to study. So it's better that in your phone you have this what to do list is there. I had downloaded that app, so I used to jot down whatever I am supposed to do the next day. And always you should set more targets than what you can do. Like I know I cannot study beyond 5 to 6 hours the day I'm having duty, but still I would deliberately write more number of targets. Okay, so that there's always some deficit left. So that deficit will keep you moving ahead. Like that okay, you it will not make you overconfident. That is what it is.
Correct. And the second question that we got was how to effectively read standard textbooks such that the times are not wasted and we get the maximum out of it.
See, I would suggest to read standard textbooks at least for first and second year subjects, because they are your basic sciences. And a lot of questions from here and there are asked from first and second year subjects. For pre-final year and final year subjects, even I had not read second year subjects. I have not even opened my Love and Bailey, and I don't even have Harrison. So for pre-final and final year subjects, you can rely on your notes and for your information, baseline information. And for passing university exams, you have a lot of books available in the market. There are prep manuals. SRB had purchased only to pass in my surgery profs, and Bulur for medicine. But if you have to read standard textbooks, then first and second year subjects, standard textbooks is must. You have to read Robbins, and if in case you're not able to read Robbins, at least go through their images. Robbins has an atlas which has compiled all the images of Robbins together. So you need to go through that.
So questions that they asked again were how to prepare for the integrated clinical based questions that are currently being asked in NEET PG and will be asked in the future for the next as well. So how do we prepare for such clinical based questions?
So for these clinical questions, you have to, I think Marrow Question Bank has covered all these clinical questions, and even the grant tests have a lot of, all the questions in grant tests are designed in such a way that they are integrated questions. In fact, the actual paper, that is why we were taken a bit, by surprise, because we had thought that they will ask all integrated questions, but in actual paper, they are asked a lot of one-liners. Having said that, if you're reading a particular, don't switch between subjects for an integrated approach. Like if you're reading microbiology, you finish microbiology entirely. If you're reading microbiology or reading pneumonia, then don't open your medicine notes side by side and then read pneumonia. that is not an integrated approaches. Like if you're reading microbiology, then you finish microbiology entirely, because the microbiology which you're reading in your second year is core microbiology. Even medicine part will not cover that. So you do the subjects individually, and to integrate them, you give a lot of tests. Marrow has mini tests. They all have integrated questions. Marrow question bank, they have revamped question bank for a lot of subjects. So now they have included integrated questions. They are grand tests and always solve the previous year questions. It's again given in the QBank section only.
All right. Okay. So before we end this session, are there any tips that you would like to give to the NEET PG aspirants who will appear the exam in a month now?
I would just tell them that in these last 40 days, they have to again the same strategy which I had done for INI-CET, brush through all the 19 subjects and revise all the high yield points which I've said, like the IPCs, milestones. They know they have, and their 20th notebook. Most the biochemistry cycles. So this is something you have to revise and give at least 2 to 3 grand tests in this last month, but review only the incorrect questions. So that is going to save up a lot of your time.
All right. Okay. So I think that's all the questions that we have for you. And those were some of those questions were what we received from our audience as well. So I would like to thank the audience for giving us these wonderful questions, and we hope that we solved your doubts. And I would like to thank Dr. Akanksha for giving us her precious time for this interview and helping n number of students who are preparing right now for their exams, who are worried about how to go about it, how to do it. And I think this will be something that will help them plan, and this will guide them ahead in their life as well. So thank you so much for that, ma'am.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you.